It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
DJ PK, we're joined once again by Michael Lev, columnist for the Arizona Daily Star. Our spring football tour continues with the Arizona Wildcats. Michael, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Great.
We're doing well. The Wildcats 6-3 in Big 12 conference play last year. That was a big bounce back. We know things change quickly for better and worse with NIL. The arrow's up. Does it continue up this year? What is the vibe? What is the thinking as they come out of spring football here?
I think the arrow at the very least kind of stays steady. It would be hard to top last season, although there are some people within the building who do believe that that's possible. The biggest reasons for optimism, I would say, are, of course, things went well last year. As you mentioned, it was a positive turnaround after a very rough first season for Brent Brennan. They retained all of their coordinators, which is a big deal in modern-day football to have that kind of continuity. And they bring back their really, really good quarterback. So that's just kind of a very solid foundation upon which to build.
Yeah, if Afita was 6'4", the NFL will be all over him, but he's short. But nevertheless, I think he's an excellent quarterback at the college level, and plus he's got all sorts of experience working college. He's been starting basically for, it seemed like 10 years, not just 2 or 3 or 4. And having the continuity with the coaches when he didn't have it early on is something that's a big deal. As I look at the skill positions, running back, they lost a couple of guys, and Riscano, who I think is viewed as certainly he's the leading rusher, returning just under 400 yards. Quincy Craig, both those guys didn't play a whole lot in spring, if at all. You're high on a kid named Wesley Yarborough, who is 5'10", 210-pound tank. Tell us why you're high on him, because if he's good, combined with the other two guys, they got some depth there at that position.
Yeah, they should be in pretty good shape at running back. They did lose Ismail Mahdi, who was a transfer last season, had a really productive year. But it was kind of a three-headed monster when Kedrick Risino was healthy. He played a lot, very effective in the red zone. Quincy Craig was kind of a third down back, and I would imagine he will resume that third down back type of role. Good blocker, smart, experienced, good pass catcher. And Wesley Yarborough, he played mostly special teams last year as a freshman. He is built very similarly to Kedrick Risino. He is really big and strong and powerful and can run through people, but also has good enough footwork to kind of maneuver in tight spaces on the inside, and really showed progress as a pass catcher during spring ball. A bunch of catches that, required a lot of skill near the sideline, like doing the dead leg thing, making sure you keep your feet in bounds, concentration to catch the ball. Those are the kinds of details that show, that some young players paying attention, right? So I think they're in really good shape there. They did lose a recruit during January. A kid ended up going to Oregon. So they brought in a replacement named Antoine Roberts, someone who had played at Marshall under the current offensive coordinator, Seth Gagey. So that's kind of a security blanket for them, too, having that veteran who knows the system.
The transfer portal's such a big deal. Single biggest get. It doesn't seem like, reading up on this, like there's one guy people really agree on. Rodney Gallagher, people seem to be high on him. although his stats were modest at West Virginia. Maybe that's why he left, though. And then there's a USC transfer at safety everybody's talking about, and Matai Togai. Where's the biggest plus in the transfer portal?
First of all, I think as a group, the defensive backs are the ones to watch here. If you include Tagovailoa, who they actually moved from linebacker to safety, I believe it's 8 defensive backs that were brought in through the portal. So they really, they knew they were losing a lot. They had 4 players out of last year's starting secondary drafted, which is unprecedented for Arizona. And it was a reflection of how good they were as a pass defense last year. I mean, among the best in the nation, literally top 5 in several categories. So position-wise, I mean, that's the area that they tried to replenish the most. But if you're talking about one player who I think from the portal is going to make the biggest impact this year, I would choose tight end Cole Rusk, who played a bunch at Illinois last season. Prior to that, he was at Murray State. Has had some injuries over the years, so he's a 6th-year college football veteran, but just right away stepped in during spring ball and took over the tight end position. Like, clearly the number one guy. I don't know how he established such good chemistry with Noah Fafita, since he hadn't really played with him before, but the two seem to have it right off the bat. And maybe that's just because Cole Rusk has been around and just knows how to play football. But that would be my choice if you're looking at one guy out of the portal who I think is going to have the biggest impact this year.
Receiver, I know you're high on Trey Spivey. Fafita calling him a generational talent. And my gosh, we all remember T-Mac McMillan, what he did and what he's doing in the NFL. Now you look at Spivey, 6'4", 213. That's some pretty good size. Obviously reminds us of T-Mac, who was literally a generational talent. Might be to think that anybody could compare to him would be something really special. They lose a couple of receivers, but they also seem like besides Spivey, they got maybe at least 2 others that showed a little bit. So Fafita should have some targets to throw to. Yeah,
I was struck by that comment too, because as you mentioned, Noah Fafita's literal best friend is Tetairoa McMillan, who's the best receiver in Arizona history and was a top 10 pick and, offensive rookie of the year in the NFL, all that stuff. I'm like, wow, okay. That seems like a generational talent. You're telling me Trey Spivey is potentially on that level. Like, whoa. Your ears perk up when you hear that, but you see it in flashes during practice. Like, he's got everything you want, right? He's got great size, and he's listed at 6'4", 213. He can high point the ball. He's willing to go over the middle. The thing for Trey is that it's just been, working on the details of the position. Wide receiver is a very detailed position. Like, you have to be precise with your routes, with your depths, with your splits, where you line up, how you attack defensive backs. So that's been a learning process for him. He's got the work ethic, the coaches say, to get all that stuff down. And if he does, he could be in for a really big year. They also bring back Giovanni Richardson, who went by Gio last year, had a really good and promising freshman season. He's like a clone of wide receivers coach Bobby Wade. Like, they talk very similarly. And Gio's got a ton of potential as a smooth route runner, tough, kind of a rising player. Doesn't have quite the size that Trey Spivey does, but then again, few do. And then I would say another returning player to keep an eye on that receiving core is Chris Hunter. Kind of an up and down year a little bit last year. Had some issues with drops, but he had a really good offseason. And they say that his performance in practice really reflected that. He might have had some injury issues that he was dealing with a year ago and seemed really fresh and fit during spring ball. So those are the main guys. And they, of course, brought in handful of transfers too, but I would kind of expect those 3 returnees to be the main trio.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's tricky in these big leagues where everybody doesn't play everybody. Who do you miss? And so it can kind of skew the stats. Texas Tech obviously had the best defense in the league last year. And then it's BYU, Utah, and Arizona. Those three separated by just 4 points. And Arizona's bringing back 6 of the front 7 are pretty experienced. So are there really high hopes there? Are there any holes in that group? Or should that really be the anchor for this team?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like it's flipped from last year, right? As mentioned, the secondary was truly outstanding a year ago. They had the big three with Traden Stukes, Dalton Johnson, and Genesis Smith, who were all taken in the first 5 rounds of the draft this past year, and were the main reason that their pass defense was so good. Now you've got some question marks in the secondary, bunch of newcomers coming in. How are they going to fit? How are they going to gel together? Meanwhile, you have Kay Brown and Chase Kennedy. Chase Kennedy, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with from his Utah days, anchoring the linebacking core. They brought in Everett Lusaw and Cooper Blomstrom to kind of be outside backers. They will sometimes go to a 2-4-5 look. They'll play 3-3-5. They'll play 4-2-5. A lot of variety and different looks in that front. You kind of never know where the pressure is coming from, who's going to rush, who's going to drop. Lusaw was something of a pleasant surprise during spring. He had big credentials coming in from Memphis, but seemed to be a better all-around player than even the coaches thought he would be. Brown and Kennedy, I think, are emerging leaders on this team and on this defense. They were much more vocal during spring than I had ever observed before. People might have some questions about defensive line because they didn't really bring in it. They brought in one veteran, and that's a kid, Kevin Moore, from junior college, who did not participate in spring because he still was finishing up classes. So they're relying on returners, number one, and they've got some really good returners. They were fortunate to get Trey Smith back for another year after he got hurt last year. This is another sixth-year guy who should really be the anchor down there. Maze Pesse had a great and pleasantly, surprisingly good freshman year, and looks like a gem that they unearthed on the recruiting trail. So he's heading into his true sophomore season. Leroy Palu was a positive addition out of the junior college ranks last year. He'll be a senior this year. And then they've got some really good-looking freshmen, too. And after Pesse was so successful last year, they're not reluctant to play these guys. So some names to file away, to keep in mind: Prince Williams, Kaisi Lafataga, and Keatron Harris is the other one, who all had their moments during spring. They all made mistakes during spring, but as players and coaches said, that's what spring ball is for. That's okay. Go ahead, make your mistakes, learn, figure it out, and you'll be better for it in the long run.
You've been on our show a number of times. You probably don't remember, but I have extensive Arizona roots. Went to high school and NAU and then ASU. Grand Canyon, too. I'll throw that one in there. The only higher institution I did not go was the U of A. But nevertheless, I'm intimately familiar with them. And it's funny that both teams, both high-level teams with the Sun Devils and the Cats, have had good seasons, but trying to follow it up has been the key, and it just hasn't happened that often. They have good seasons, and you can go back, let's see, in 2024 with Fish, they had a good season, and then, it doesn't, or 23, whatever it was, it doesn't work out. And then they stink. And then last year was a nice season for the Cats. So what it'll be. And the Sun Devils have had it's almost paralleled there with the same type of good season and then not being able to follow it up. Now, this year, to what level, I don't know. But I anticipate if for no other reason that I'm a Fafita believer, he's proven to me that he's very good at the college level. And as I said, if he were a few inches taller, the fact is, if he was a few inches taller, he wouldn't be at Arizona right now. He'd be in the NFL. But I believe in him. So I think they'll have a respectable season, if not a very good season. It sort of follows him somewhere in between decent and really good. Am I accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what everyone is hoping for. To your point, they went 10-3 in 2023 and followed it up with 4-8.
Yeah,
10-4 in 2014, and the next year was 7-6, and had a gazillion injuries. 12-1 in 1998. They were 6-6 the following season. The best they've ever done after one of these kind of breakout years is probably going from 93 to 94. They were 10-2 and then 8-4. I think if they went 8-4 this upcoming regular season, it would be considered somewhat satisfying. Expectations might be even slightly higher. I mean, I saw USA Today came out with a top 138 a few days ago, and they had Arizona 17th in the country. So that's kind of that's knocking on the door of the CFP, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things have to go your way. You got to get lucky with injuries. Schedule dictates some of that. They've got a really tough game in week 2 at BYU. Very, test right off the bat to see how good you are. I think the rest of the schedule, honestly, is pretty manageable. I think there's a lot of parity in the Big 12 overall. But I think something in the 8-4 range is probably realistic. And given the history that you cited, that would probably be considered another successful season.
As long as they get a W in that 12th game, too.
Yes, of course. Of course. That shapes the entire perspective of the season. And, fun fact, 100th Territorial Cup this year.
Oh, is it?
So kind of a big deal, this particular Arizona ASU game on Saturday, November 28th.
How big a deal is it to go to West Virginia and play Rich Rod, the former Arizona coach?
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal. This will be the first time that they play West Virginia with Rich Rod as the coach. That will be a huge storyline here in Tucson that week, and will be a huge storyline in Morgantown as well. He was the coach here for 6 years. They did really well for the most part over those 6 seasons. Went to bowl games 5 times. I don't think that's ever happened at any other period in the history of the program. It was not, however, an amicable breakup. There were some things that were happening behind the scenes that led to Rich Rod's dismissal. He's bounced back. Got to give him a lot of credit. Like, he reinvented himself to a degree. He coached at the lower levels, took lesser jobs, worked his way back up into the position that he's in now. I know they've had massive turnover on their roster. So what West Virginia is going to look like this year is something of a mystery. But, yeah, that's going to be a really big deal. I'm sure it'll be emotional to some degree for Rich Rod and his family. Both of his kids work for the program as well. And, they grew up in Tucson, attended Arizona. His kids did. So definitely one of the dates to circle on the calendar when you look at the schedule this year.
Just make sure Brennan keeps his shirt on there in Tucson in the offices, and he'll be fine.
He hasn't gone there yet, but I've seen that in the past, and he's been like more relaxed and comfortable and kind of feeling, like he can be himself, like over the past year compared to the first year. So I wouldn't put anything past him.
Well, Michael, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for joining us and walking us through Arizona and the spring football tour.
Okay, thank you guys. Anytime.
All right. Arizona Wildcats at BYU Saturday, September 12th, and the Utes go to Arizona November 14th. That's the right time for a road trip to Arizona, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yes, it'll be probably in the 70s that day. Yeah, great.
Yeah, get 75 instead of 95.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a big difference once you get into November. That's when you finally can break from summer.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.